Now here I would like you to look at this person's research topic. That is called a research topic. Yeah. And what I'm displaying to you is called a concept paper. Okay. The concept paper has the topic, the research problem, the objectives, the research questions, and also the conceptual framework. Okay. I'm saying that the concept paper has the topic, the problem statement, it has the research objectives, they are called specific objectives, the research questions, and the conceptual framework. Now here is the topic. This student, for example, is coming up with the topic called finance management strategies and school physical infrastructure development in Uganda. This means that the student is thinking that when there are finance management strategies, then school physical infrastructure will develop. Where they are not, the finance management strategies are not, school physical infrastructure development will also not. Then I ask my teacher here, you tell me your name. The other one in blue. Sorry, I'm not yet learned your name. Yes, teacher. What's your name? Yes, teacher Jacqueline. In that topic, what is the dependent variable? Physical infrastructure development. Do we agree? The dependent variable. We are asking what is the dependent variable? Physical infrastructure development. It is going to depend on finances. Then what is the independent? So we use this one here as a connector variable. We call it a connect. So it is a connector, a word which is connecting. Those who are teaching language, you call them conjunction. Yes, a conjunction, which is creating a connection. So, but we are here in Nkumba University. We avoid a student saying finance management strategies on school. You don't use on. Or a student saying the effect of finance management strategies on. Why we say don't put effect or impact of? Because you don't know whether there is an effect or an impact unless you have carried out research. When you tell us that there is an effect, then we say you are biased. We also don't state here and say poor finance management strategies and poor infrastructure development. We also still say that that student is biased. I can put, for example, I can say, state for you a topic and say school management strategies and poor if school, okay, and poor physical infrastructure development or under infrastructure development, and say comment on the topic. Come up with your own topic. So if a student does not know the characteristics of a research topic, that should also be neutral. It should not show the side of the what? Of the researcher. Then the student cannot be able to comment and say this topic is not well stated, it is saying it is negative and not neutral. Then on the topic, we other student can also put here a colon, then say a case of selected, say this one, public schools in Kayunga district. Then you don't need to put here Uganda again, because Uganda is already there. You know, research is good. It builds reasoning in a student. If a student continues to do research but is not reasoning, that student has not graduated in a research course unit very well. For example, yesterday, we happened to have trained some students, some directors of studies of schools here in the university, and we have certificates for those who didn't pick them. And then a student was sent by someone to pick a certificate. And those who registered were the ones to get the certificate. So when the student informed me that wants to get that certificate on behalf of the colleague, I searched in the database and saw that that person was not issued the certificate. And so I told this student, please, that person was not issued a certificate, so possibly he didn't register. So the certificate is not available. So the student asked me, what should I tell him? You see that? In research, you will find something called reasoning. In research, two forms of reasoning. One form will be called deductive, another one inductive reasoning. Deductive means from the situation, draw a conclusion and have an answer or a solution. You don't need to wait for now say this and the other. This is not the army where the commander has got to say and you have to say exactly what the commander has said. It's reasoning. Now that's the topic. Then we go to the problem statement. School finance management strategies enhance developments of infrastructure according to Sembatia 2020. Is that reality or ideal? Is it reality or ideal? What we call reality is what exactly is happening there. What should happen, we call it ideal, or what should be. So, is this reality or ideal? Ideal. Mm. Uh-huh. Now, So, okay, let's see. In Uganda, particularly in the Kayunga district, public secondary school face significant challenges regarding financial mobilization, monitoring strategies that hinder development of physical infrastructure. This person should tell us here the source of this fact. That is Sembatia. Sembatia is got this statement. Mm. Okay. Public schools rely widely on capitation grants from the government, which is insufficient for aiding development of physical infrastructure, according to Ntanda and Amata. Is that ideal or reality? Reality. Out of the needed schools, only 54 can receive finances from government directed towards the school infrastructure, creating a gap of 46. Reality. So now I don't want to draw you into too much of here. When finance management strategies are not enhanced, the development of physical infrastructure in schools of Kayunga will remain low. That is it. The effect. It is an effect. So, if I were to summarize this, school finance management strategies enhance development of physical infrastructure according to that. That is ideal. Then, public schools, okay, this part here tells us the reality. And then this one tells us the effect. If the person only stated this part and this part, the problem statement is finished. These other ones are to any reach. Give us some statistics. Yeah, to show the magnitude of what? The problem. The intensity of the problem. Also tell us that in that community, the ideal could be stated elsewhere, like in Nigeria. That is the ideal in Nigeria. And the reality is must be in the place where the problem is. When you give the reality and cite Kenya, then you tell, we ask you, where are you going to do this research from? Uganda. Then you go to Kenya. You go to Kenya. Yes. Then specific objectives. But for you to understand specific objectives, you need to know the mother of objectives. The mother of objectives, Mama Wazo, is called the conceptual framework. When someone does not have the conceptual framework, possibly does not have proper objectives. He's having children without the mother. Impossible. But the possibilities the person has, possibly those children are not living children. Here we call them their wrong objectives. Did you hear some news recently where the guy prepared a burial for something, not a person, which is not a person? And people contributed condolences that he had lost a child. Now, here we are saying you in this conceptual framework, a conceptual framework is a diagrammatic representation of the relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable. Okay. So now here is the diagram. We say, here we say, what is the independent variable? You say we're getting it from the topic. Yeah. Some students can have an independent variable here, which is not the one in the topic. Then dependent variable, you see we are also getting it from the what? From the topic. And the problem statement was also having them. So now we look to get these are called constructs in the language. They are divisions or breakdowns of the main variable. How do you get them? That's the job. You do literature review, you also make preliminary studies and find what are those finance management strategies that should be there in a school to enhance physical infrastructure development. That when they are not there, they can indicate that physical infrastructure development, even if people wished, may not be achievable. You see that? So this one is saying, if you go to a school and ask, do you have a finance mobilization strategy? They are OBs who you gather and then tell them we have a building, we want to put up a hostel. If they don't gather OBs, what of parents? They don't mobilize them. Then possibly you could say that's why the infrastructure development is not there. Then monitoring of finance monitoring strategies. They could be mobilizing and getting them. But then monitoring, you may find that what would have been available, they are using it to buy plots of land to construct rentals. Maybe the head teacher is constructing rentals for tenants. So either because it's not being monitored, then we find then non-cash payment system. This one is also looking at non-cash payment system. That if cash is paid in the cash and it is going through hands of people, then misuse could be. So it's saying finance management strategies are 3 according to this one that is going to do research about. They are called 3 constructs. So for now, this dependent variable, meaning how do you know that the physical infrastructure development is in place? This one is looking at holding capacity of buildings. You find that there are many learners, but very small rooms. Then you say, infrastructure is needed. Because this, you ask, how are you going to measure them? Then maintenance schedules. You ask, how often do you maintain these buildings? Can you give me a plan? Print it out for me. It's not there. Then possibly they will not maintain the buildings. Then existence of procurement contracts. Are there some people who've contracted to build? If they are not there, then you say, you can base on them, these ones, to check infrastructure development. You find those things you have to base on to measure that variable. Because if you went to a school and you find that infrastructure development, maybe the holding capacity is very small, but they already contracted people to build. They are already procuring some of the sand that is there. Then you are still complaining infrastructure development is poor. Are you really serious? Because the solution is already on the way. Yes. So you base on this, and there are also other variables here, which, for example, here we are showing intervening variables. We call them intervene. What is to intervene? Intervene. To check out. Okay. Influence. Uh-huh. We can use the word interrupt and interruption. For you, you could find the school has mobilization strategies, has monitoring strategies, and there's non-cash transfer payment systems. But still, infrastructure development is not there. Possibly there could be other issues, either economic status of the community. People wish when your mobilization strategies are there, but people are not really contributing. Why? Because they don't have. Can you give what you don't have? Or the community attitude. They have, but those are buildings. The government should build them. Why should they encroach on our finances? So even though these ones are there, this is what is happening. Then you end up not having physical infrastructure development. So you say they are intervening variables. However, we also have other variables which we call moderator variable. We use the arrow like this if it is a modulator, from the independent variable to the modulator, then from the modulator to the dependent variable, not to strike between. Why modulator? We are saying those other factors which enhance what? Physical infrastructure development. For example, amidst all these, if all these are there in place, what factors can support and make it the relationship exaggerated? As the mobilization strategies are there, there is an NGO that is inputting money. You see, it is again making sure physical infrastructure are there. That is exaggerating the relationship. Something there you will note, there is also another variable we call control variable. That one, when we put it, it's called the control variable. When we put control variables anywhere, you can put it in a box, but it does not strike anywhere. A control variable is, you call it control because it is not going to participate in the what? In the relationship, in the experiment you are carrying out. You've seen if one wanted to test either if it is a herbicide and see whether that herbicide can dry grass, can get those the plants wants to dry, and then others keeps them somewhere and does not expose them to that herbicide, and then keeps exposing these ones to that herbicide to see whether they are dry. If they dry and the other ones also are still uh, they have also not withered, they are healthy. He says that the herbicide has had an effect on the on this plant. But if both of them dry, then possibly it is not the herbicide. It is either something else, a weather condition. So these ones you've not exposed to the experiment. You call them a control variable. They are helping you to see whether there is an effect between the independent and the dependent. So they are even put in open, you don't have to put them in a situation beyond their normal. You've done an experiment of phototropism, the effect of light on growth of a plant. For learners to know that it is, you plant two beans, one of them you put it in a darker place and the window is open. The other plant you put it outside there. This one turns towards the what? The sun, the where light is. That is now the experimented species. The other one continues going up. That is the control variable. It is not participating in the what? In the experiment, but you're using it to measure the effect of the relationship you want to measure. That's called the control variable. Now here we've come to the conceptual framework here to learn how to construct objectives. Now this is the first construct. Be careful, there are strategies we use to construct objectives. When constructing objective, there is a strategy we call many to one. Many to one. When we say many, we mean many independent variables to one dependent variable. Many to one. So there are many here. This finance mobilization, this is finance monitoring, and this non-cash payment system. Now we are going to get these finance mobilization strategies and connect it to one which called physical infrastructure development to create an objective. But while stating the objective, we use the word to. Then other variables are to analyze, to examine, to assess. Don't use to identify, to describe, unless one has really very basic. So diploma people can be allowed to do that. But for your bachelor holders, highly placed people in the country. So now we are going to create an objective for the first construct, which is finance mobilization strategies. So here you say, to examine the effectiveness of finance mobilization strategies in facilitating physical infrastructure development in public secondary schools in Kayunga district. Another one can say, to examine the effect of finance mobilization strategies on physical infrastructure development in public secondary schools in Kayunga district. You're getting this word, public secondary schools in Kayunga district. from the what? The topic. If the topic was saying primary schools and here you're telling us secondary, we tell you that you have two researches in one concept paper. Then you've seen that here you have finance monitoring. Then finance monitoring, you also create for it an objective. Is there someone who can create an objective for us here for finance monitoring strategies? Your colleague who is dosing should create for us an objective. Yes, come up with an objective, teacher. You see, in the university, you don't dose in a lecture. You just walk away and go somewhere. You see, in the university, no one will tell you why haven't you attended. Hmm? Why did you stand up and go for a long, all those many hours and return? But you see, you've seen that indiscipline even in parliament, where people are coded and they are dozing MP. But if they went and dozed in a place which is for dozing, so no one will be bothered. But the place you are in, if you slept in here and you're doing bachelor's, for me I would put you to certificate, not even certificate. I would even remove the certificate from you. So let us create this objective. We can use the if to analyze the impact of to analyze the or to examine. Now I want to get one student to do that, not to run with me. Yes, teacher. Yeah. Even when you know you give us what is not consistent. Here you've come to the garage. Why to be worried with the what? With the wheel which is not shaped well. So we are using verbs, for example, to analyze the effect of, or you can also use impact of, or the relationship of. So let us use to examine. Did we use to examine in the first place?
No.
Okay. Yes. The,
To examine the effects of finance monitoring strategies in the fiscal development of public schools in Kayumba district.
Thank you. If we had teachers who remember the principle of motivation, would have clapped for you already. Only what you needed to adjust in stating that topic is removing bias. So you don't say to analyze the effects of. The moment you go to the field knowing that there are many effects, it means that you already went to the field with some effects. And those effects that you went with in the field are shadowing you from seeing some effects. For you think that the effect you have is what is affecting. So you make it what? Singular. To analyze the effect of, the impact of, impacts. So that is the only adjustment you could make. So you could also see here possibly to assess the impact of finance. I see that. Hmm. Huh. The other ones you can construct it yourself. There, now we are going to see how to build research questions for the objective. Research questions for the objective. While writing research questions, we are sensitive that the student should be using the word what, not how. So, why? Because we want to be specific. How seeks for the process. This, you remember, this is basic research. In applied research, you can use the how. So we use what, not how or when. Use what. So for this objective, or maybe let me go with an objective that you, number 2, that we have developed together, and create a research question for it. We can use what is. So it will be what is, what are, or what is. One is asking, should we use what are or what is? What is? Mm-hmm. So, yes. Because there is also a possibility that you can go there and find there is no even impact at all. Yes. So, uh-huh. So what is? Then you put a full stop, a question mark. So that is what you will see here. That's what you will see here. Okay. So what is is very key. Maybe what a student needs to note here as we are closing this session, I want to make this end the show and come here down, 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 down. Okay, below these objectives, and down here we are going to put uh, a heading. We call it hypothesis of the study. Okay. Now, there is what we call hypothesis. When a person in research uses the language specific objective, okay. Oh, well, I'm supposed to put it here. When a person uses research questions, it means research questions are used by qualitative researchers, which is going to deal with it. What are people saying in terms of words, opinions? Here, for you, you see, we are not paying enough salary, and to me, I would rather go in my garden other than going to a school where I'm not paid salary. And so far, my tomatoes are giving me money. Then you take note that people are not satisfied with that salary payment and are in tomatoes and are in agricultural activities other than school activities. Those are opinions. But where your research is intending to find out how many are dissatisfied and what extent, which gives the statistical figures, then it is quantitative. So it is quantitative researchers that use hypotheses, but qualitative researchers use research questions. Now, then we ask ourselves, what is a hypothesis? First, a hypothesis is a bias that a researcher has before conducting research. In other words, we call them presumptions. The researcher assumes that something is happening and is sure that is what is happening until he disapproves it or approves it by conducting research. For example, in your schools, in secondary schools use it. When students return from holidays, they do pregnancy tests for girls. They assume that everyone is pregnant. And then, because of that, they start to test everyone, even those who are not pregnant. Not some, but
They assume that all are good.
yes.
That's why all are tested.
So you either assume all of them are pregnant or all of them are not pregnant. But still, you have got to go and test to prove your presumption, your hypothesis. Now, there are two forms of hypothesis. There is what we call the null hypothesis, and there is also what we call the alternative hypothesis. The word null, like that, as alternative. Alternative hypothesis. Alternative. Alternative hypothesis. Now, null is what the researcher states. The researcher states the null hypothesis. You say null means no relationship. Null means no relationship. For example, this objective we stated an objective, not a hypothesis. We stated an objective here. We want to state its null hypothesis. So to state the null hypothesis, we usually use the H naught, mean null, H naught 1, that is the, okay, I wanted to make it a subscript. Subscripting it. Okay, the subscript should be a subscript down here. Here, subscripting it. Just my thing has just summarized. So this means H naught means null, 0, but 1 means the first hypothesis, the first null hypothesis. So to state the null hypothesis, you say there is no, for example, there is no effect of finance management strategies on that. Yes, you have stated the null hypothesis for it. If the objective was to analyze the relationship between this and that, the hypothesis would also state there is no relationship between that and the other. Then the researcher goes to collect data. If the researcher finds that that relationship is not there as stated here, the researcher confirms the null hypothesis. So for this case, let me just maintain the 1 there. But you make for each of them objective, you create a null hypothesis for it. But when you go to the field, collect data, test that data and find that the relationship is there, then that's where we state the alternative hypothesis. So the researcher will reject this null and state the alternative and say there is if there is an effect of finance management strategies on that, and give us, is it a positive effect or negative? That when the finance mobilization strategies were there, infrastructure was not there at all. That's negative. Finance mobilization strategies were there. Infrastructure development was also there. Then that is positive. Yeah, that's when you state the alternative hypothesis. So far we have seen how to create a research problem, and then how to state. I'm avoiding using the word creating, because in research you don't create a research problem, you state it. And then we have also seen how to develop a conceptual framework, and also how to develop construct objectives and research questions from there. That's a good mileage. You'll find out, for example, a question paper which was given to your colleagues. For me, when I was studying my bachelor's, I could do research alone. I would go to those in year 3 when I'm in year 1. In which year I'm in year 3? You're doing exams. Okay. When you finish the exam, you give me a copy. I go and photocopy. I have a file of those exams done by my colleagues, because that's where I am going. But today you find the student has done research methods, but is asking for question papers. When he's doing examinations, they are issuing various examinations in the room, which you even do, but you don't ask. Then people even drop them. Others even leave the papers there on the tables, on the chairs, because they are finished. So you would look at their question paper for research method. Take an example. You will see a conceptual framework given to them, and they are told to develop objectives. Did you see that paper? Didn't you see it there? Why? Because our setting of examinations should have to even reach a point where it is it is adjusted. You tell the person, develop, this is just an example, develop what? An interview. And you measure how long that the person take to get an interview guide. Because you have to know that there is an interview, but you have to be able to make it. Just the bachelors, not just knowing their interviews, questionnaires. So what? Come up with the questionnaire. Maybe to reduce time, cost with this number of questions. But you must be knowing them, and then you are able to use them. So that is it here.